people can go to jail if the networks aren't secure. That certainly makes it a high point of topic with the senior executives of a business. But the amount of information that a customer needs and the amount of data and the integrity of that data is more important today than it's ever been. And years ago, there was a survey back in 2003. It said, why do people secure their networks? The number one reason was not because we want to. It was because we don't want our brand recognition to be destroyed. I think that's still very, very important, but I think it's probably a close 1 and 2 now to where we have to. Number 3 in that survey, unfortunately, was we want to secure our network. We think we should. Because customers maybe didn't secure their network, then that's when compliance started coming into play. Security is a very, very important topic. It will stop progress on anything if there's a security issue where customers can thinks there's liability there. That risk of losing data, having data compromised, is critical to a customer. This is also a place where a lot of services can be rendered. So, because in some places, one company may secure a company's network. That same company may hire another company to hack it and see how well they did. It's that important, so they'll actually spend an awful lot of money in this. Cisco is certainly vested in security. If customers won't put anything on a network, a lot of good it's going to do us to sell routing and switching. We've always had security, but again, that securities have had to adapt to the changes of the types of attacks. Early on, you call on a customer and say, hey, are you secure? Yeah, I got a PIX firewall. Well, you're good. Thank you for being a Cisco customer, and yet you're secure. Boy, that's changed a lot. Where do threats come from? Where do threats come from today? Anywhere and everywhere. Internally, sometimes more than externally. Maybe just somebody not knowing, not thinking, maybe I shouldn't do that. The fact that they can or they figure out how to do something that causes a security breach is, hey, excuse me, sorry. So IT has taken a very, very close interest in security. Cisco's whole portfolio of security products, and again, we can't cover all of them, but we cover a pretty good set of them, actually goes around a couple of different situations here. First of all, the different users, the secure access, just to secure the access used to be lock the doors, right? Don't let people in. Can't do that. Now we have login and passwords. Now you have to change those passwords. They can't be your child's name. They can't be all these different things. Secure access, and not only the connecting up what you connect up, but actually the devices they're using. We want to allow customers to onboard their own devices. In this BYOD, we want customers to be able to onboard their own devices, but we want to secure them as well. We also want to be able to have guests come into our network and have a secure guest net. Has anybody here ever brought a customer or somebody into Cisco and what the process is? What do you have to do? You have to register in the front, and then what happens? How do they get on our network?
They get an ID that they get.
Yeah, we actually have them, we don't just say get on GuestNet and work away. We actually have them authenticate saying that Eddie signed them in. Eddie's now responsible, by the way. And now this is their login name and password for a specific time, for a specific location. Right? So we want to be able to have that, but we want to be able to regulate it and control it. And again, this goes against every grain in IT or a security person's DNA because they don't want to give access. When I worked at Blue Cross and Blue Shield, I worked with a guy who was a mainframe guy, old mainframe guy. And he used to say he would never bet anything other than a cup of coffee when it came to a PC because there's just so many different ways in and out of it. It was just so insecure for him from his old mainframe mentality. And you know what? A lot of that's true. Security people struggle with that, giving access so people can be productive, to limiting access and protecting ourselves and doing our job. So that's really, really a balance. This is where I think that customers have had to start to refocus, because the business units have said, guess what, you can't tell me I can't have access to that because I'm running the business, I pay the bills, and you're stopping me from doing that. So you have to have policies in place. And if a customer hasn't got an overall policy about all that, that should raise the reddest flag you could raise to the highest pole, because they've got to start making that part of their business process. And I find that in a lot of customers that, they may have thought about security 3 to 5 years ago. It's changed. It's changed. How fast do threats happen? How fast do new threats happen? Just every second of every day. Every minute you get a new one.
I was at a conference with, I think it was McAfee, and they said there's 100,000 new attacks or viruses developed every day.
Wow.
100,000.
100,000. That is just amazing to me.
That's it.
Yeah, wow. Somebody's really busy. Somebody's drinking Red Bull. Somebody's on Red Bull there doing that. There's so many variants of all these things. So what does that mean? How can the average Joe keep up with this? How can the average customer keep up with this? Does he hire? Are there that many geniuses you can hire? No, they're not. We have to collect information and use it in something to be able to, once we see it one time, to be able to spread the information very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Cisco's got the Security Intelligence Organization. It's actually in the web. It's actually out there watching all of this, all the threats that go across there, the new viruses, the new hacks, the new this, that, and the other. It's actually learns about all of them from all of our customers, all the organizations we have, everybody who has any kind of idea about a new threat, they can publish it to this. We have a lot of members, SAP, Oracle, Adobe, all these people who may have threats that they know about, they can actually publish that. But it's also new threats, new viruses, new hacks, new things like that actually we see in some of our equipment. We actually publish it out there, so you can actually subscribe to this. So as soon as a new threat happens, goes to the SIO, and the SIO can actually push that down for you. Wouldn't it be nice that if there was a new security risk, let's say for SAP, or some application you use, the SIO could find out about it, and actually push it back through and push it into your IPS. So inside your network, remember way back to Wednesday, when we talked about the session layer where we were setting up all these things, and then we'd have IPS, intrusion prevention. Wouldn't it be nice if that device could actually subscribe and see and be, as soon as this organization sees it, it could actually push it down to my IPS, and within a matter of minutes maybe, I'm protecting myself from something that somebody just found out about. That's what's going to have to happen for a customer to be able to protect themselves at any kind of confidence level. So what does that mean? It means as we move more and more to the cloud's going to have to be an area where we collect information and disseminate information across the lines of all of our different products. I really think security, although we'll still have to have basic security in here, the intelligence for security is going to start coming from here. It's really going to start coming from here. Everybody's going to have to participate in this. And when we go to the product section, we'll actually look at the SIO's website. And you'll see it'll have a list there of some of the new attacks that it's seen, some of the vulnerabilities out there and all this. And our devices could actually subscribe to that and be able to pull that information down. It's that important. So starting with a customer who, somebody who walks into your business, an employee, the first thing we want to do is we want to do, they had this protocol called 802.1x. 802.1x was a protocol that says every user, every device that connects on a network has to authenticate. Has to at least authenticate on the network to say we allow it to log in. Well, IP phones can't authenticate, but we might use a digital certificate, and we can support that on our phones, so they can all do that. Printers could use the same thing. But we want to be able to have people be able to authenticate as well. Cisco took 802.1x and took it a little bit further. We actually started calling that network admissions control. We're going to ask you to authenticate, but then we're going to want to look down into your PC and look and see what kind of vulnerabilities it might have. You might not have antivirus. We might want to see what kind of software you have on there. There's a lot of different things you can look down in there and see. And Cisco, it's really funny that when 802.1x came out, and virtually no one could do it, because it says you have to do it at a switch port and all this, everybody was like, oh wow, this is going to be really hard to do. What did Cisco do? They complicated it. They said, not only do we want to do that nobody can do, we actually want to tell you what kind of software is in there. We want to look at all these other different attributes on there. So we're actually going to complicate something that couldn't be done, network admissions control. And again, what did the trade magazines and people say? Oh my God, Cisco, they complicate an anvil. They just complicate everything. 2 years later, started reading articles. Is 802.1x enough? Just authenticating people. Actually, the world has turned back around and looked at Cisco and said, you know, Cisco, you may have been right. It may not just be because you have a login name and password that I should let you on a network. What about the device you're on? Yeah, well, maybe I want to start looking at where you're trying to access, where you're at, the time of day, what applications you want to get to, what applications you shouldn't get to. That is what Cisco had said in the first place. People laughed about them and kind of brushed them off, and now it's actually came back full circle with this. So network admissions control is a critical part. This access, especially when you're talking BYOD and all these other different things. So, well, our product, to be able to do that, we used to have two. It was called the NAC appliance and the ACS. The ACS was the AAA server. Your login name and password was stored here. And then we had the NAC appliance, which would actually profile your and do the authentication from the not just login name and password, but all the other things that were on your PC. We've combined these two in a product called ICE, the Identity Services Engine. And the Identity Services Engine, you know, depending on your deployment, could be 1 box, could be 6 boxes, depending on the size of your network and where you want to do it. It also gives us guest access. Guest access. So when you actually go in and you do that web portal, whatever it is, I can't remember the web name and everything to bring people on, you're actually going to a web portal on this guy. You're actually saying, this is their email address, and I've logged in and I'm saying I want this person on my network for this period of time. And that gives them the authentication on GuestNet to get on our network. So we're actually trying to control the access. I mean, think about it. I can remember hundreds of times when if I could get through the door, I was on their network. I was on their network. Because, you know, the hardest thing I had to do, forgot my badge as I walk up. You know, just walk in, new employee. So accessing this is really cool. Now the ICE actually will be able to give you time of day, all the different things that we want to do. You can create a profile. And again, this is where I think customers are struggling. How do I set up this big matrix of all these different things? How do I classify all my employees without having a spreadsheet that I need a Oracle database to manage? Right? That's really the trouble. And customers have got to take a stop and do that if they really want to implement this all the way throughout their organization. And they struggle with it. They certainly do. Firewalls, the PIX firewall's gone. Long live the PIX. Today we have the ASA, the Adaptive Security Appliance. The Adaptive Security Appliance provides multiple service. First of all, in an ASA, you have firewall capability. We have firewall capability in an ASA. It's light years ahead of the speeds and potential that the PICs ever had. Today, I think it does 40 gig of firewall throughput. We'll look at it on the product set and everything. It's a very, very powerful firewall. So that's what every ASA will do. The second thing it will do is VPN. All of the ASAs have the capability to do VPN access in hardware, and you can have 20, 30,000, some of the bit larger, 20,000 users using VPN through one of these things. And then the third part, actually we let you choose. It could be an IPS appliance. It's modular. You could actually insert a module that does IPS, intrusion prevention, inside of the box. So it does 3 jobs as one. It also could do content filtering. Content filtering. You can actually filter content, watch all the stuff that goes through your network, and be able to make sure that what you want to go through your network does and what you don't doesn't. So it actually provides multiple layers of services on there. And its role is, again, changing. The rules that we put on these things have to change sometimes. Think about it. This was the way I got to the internet. This was the way I got to the internet. What if this user wants to go to a web page on the internet? Should I restrict where my customer can go on the internet? Cisco doesn't. You could go to practically any site you want to from behind Cisco's firewall. I've seen it done. If you want to go to www.whitehouse.com, you can. Now, that's not where President Obama lives. That's whitehouse.gov. Whitehouse.com is going to show you, don't let your children see this site.
That's the site your child goes to when he's 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah. His first time he sees those dirty little pictures on the internet. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Except that was a small window.
Yeah. But so why would what's the business reason why a customer might want to limit where you could go? Productivity, absolutely. Liability, absolutely. Liability. Where do you think you pick up most of your viruses and most of it? It's not in your email. It's in the links to your email to all these sites. I have a friend who does a lot of work on PCs. He's an older guy, and he just, he continues to think he can fix everything on a PC. And if you get a virus and your PC locks up and you're just somebody who doesn't know how to do it, you can take it to the guy, and he'll work 10 hours on a PC and charge like $50. I'm like, what are you doing? He says, man, it's fun for me, and I'm just doing this for fun. I said, man, you're not doing it for money, I can tell you that much. But he'll work really hard and everything. And I saw him at lunch the other day. We went to lunch, and I said, what's going on? And he told me about this one problem he had on this PC, and he worked all this time, and he did this and he did that. I said, well, where did this person get it? And he goes, porn. He says, 60% of everything I get is porn. It's just porn. And I said, well, do you get it from everywhere else? He says, I've seen banks. I've seen it come from bank sites. I said, really? Yeah. He says, but a lot of it's porn sites. Well, think about it. You can't control what people do. You can't. You can tell them not to do it. They tell me not to speed all the time. 45 miles an hour, I'm doing 60. Until they pull me over, it's not illegal, kind of thing. So we have to restrict that. Can we do that? Can we restrict that? It's important, obviously. We have the ability to do it in a couple of places. What if we just want to do it on our site? We have a web security appliance that can do that. We can restrict down to whatever you want. We can let you look at your Facebook page while you're at work. We can keep you from chatting on it because there's a chat there. We can get that granular with what we would want to do. The web security appliance that we have here actually came from a company called Ironport. One of the best acquisitions Cisco has ever made. And it is a really, really, really good box. And you can get as granular as you want with that. As granular as you want as far as securing that. But what if you don't want to maintain that? Guess what? You could put it out here in the web. Ironport has a cloud-based service that you can do. So you could actually have it provided in the cloud. You could have every time somebody wanted to go to the web, to the internet, you could drive them all the way up here to the cloud, and the cloud will have your rules for you. And you could talk to those and say, here's my policy. The people will talk to you. They'll set your policies in place. They'll enforce your policies. They'll give you reports. They could say, hey, these are the things that people have tried to go to. You can get anything you want out of that. And you can also bring this into that so you can actually start filtering additionally places that you'd never want to let them go, even though they might not be on the list totally, but now they're a new attack or a new place that we know there's some vulnerabilities. So there's a lot of different potential here. I'll tell you this, other than collaboration and data applications, security is probably one of the biggest moves to the cloud that I've seen. Because customers can't manage it themselves. They can't. It's too complicated. It really is. How about mail? Mail security. Is that important? Email? Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Again, that's where Ironport is at its best. Cisco's Ironport, probably one of the best products we've ever acquired, as far as what it does. It actually does, for all the mail, it sets, you have your mail server here, if you own your mail server. And it front ends your mail server. So Ironport is here. So all the mail going in and out before you get to your mail server, it goes through Ironport. So if somebody on the outside across the internet sends mail in, goes in and hits your Ironport mail server. The first thing your Ironport mail server does is it looks at where that mail's from. And it classifies that mail on a scale of -10 to +10, depending on where that mail's from, who's sending it. There are certain places we know no good mail comes from these certain places that the SIO know about. So guess what? If a mail comes in and it's a -4, we're going to throw it away. It's never going to see your mail server. Why? Because we know it's probably really, really bad. We don't want it to go there. But let's say it's a 2. Let's investigate a little further. So he'd pull the mail up and he'd look at it. It'd look inside of it. The links inside of the mail. If somebody sent you a link, well, let's look. I've got a list of all the bad places maybe. If those links are in there, probably going to throw it away. Probably going to let you know that there's something wrong with it. If there's attachments. Before we had Ironport here at Cisco, if you wanted to send an executable file through the network, you couldn't. But if you renamed that executable file, program.exe, fly right through. Or JPG. Just take an exe, change it to JPG. Just put in hey, it says JPG. Just rename it and use it. And it'd work. Won't work through this guy. He opens up everything and looks at it, looks and sees what's going on. Oh, you silly guy. That's an executable. It's not a picture. It'll take it out, throw it away. Yeah. It classifies all that. And it does a really, really, really good job. Very good for us. And again, you can have that on site, or actually you could have that up here. You could actually have your own mail server here and put this out here and just front end all your mail in the cloud. You don't even have to have it on your prem. And that's kind of like a hybrid approach, and I think that's a good thing. As good as it is coming in, it's just as good coming out. What if I don't want some intellectual property going out through email? This is a way for me to filter my outbound email. Everything that we use to communicate or to be able to send files can be a potential problem for us from a security perspective. We have to be able to do that. Our IPS, again, Cisco's got several new IPS products that we'll look at. Support up to 5 gigabits of throughput and everything. And one that I think is the best things is it actually works with the SIO and actually gets all the newest problems and it updates itself. So that means inside of your network, your application of SAP, if there's a new vulnerability, think about how important SAP, if you deploy SAP, how important that is in your business process. If there's a new vulnerability, you can find out and your network can be protecting you against it in a matter of minutes. That's what it's going to take in order to do this. Most customers are overwhelmed by this. This is probably the place they just get overwhelmed. And this, I tell you, we have a great fleet of products that live up here that are great services for them to use. Really is. Customers, customers are outsourcing their mail, right? They'll put their mail out there and everything. Guess what? Why don't you secure it out there too? Why don't you use the SI? Why don't you use, because every web security appliance, every email security appliance here, if this guy sees it, finds a new vulnerability or something, he actually sends it back to the SIO, updates it.
So what does this stand for?
Security Intelligence Organization. I'll show you the webpage. Or Office. It might be Office.
It's us.
It's us. It's us. It's us. It's us. It actually came from Ironport. Ironport had this. Ironport started this. Ironport saw, when we acquired Ironport, Ironport saw 40% of all email that went through the internet. Their devices did. So they saw a massive majority of where the problems were going through and everything. And we've just expanded the capabilities of it. It might be Office. We'll look at it and see. So at the branch, again, we have the same capabilities. We have to onboard people. We have to have guest nets for wireless. We have to be able to have access back and forth. We may even put devices out here to be able to secure us. The good part about that is I have firewall on my router. So if this user wants to go to the internet, can I point it to the web security appliance here? Absolutely. Be a great service for a customer who doesn't want, hey, I want to filter all of my internet traffic. Guess what? We port our ASAs and all our firewalls at the branch router at that. Guess what? Put our rules out there and they're all done. Even when our customers do AnyConnect, our mobile users, we've talked about AnyConnect with collaboration. This guy's at home, they connect up to the internet. AnyConnect sees they're outside of the corporate boundaries. It goes back to the ASA. Now, all of their web traffic goes back here, goes back there, and is filtered, and we have the exact same rules. The exact same rules. It's really, really... Now, who do you have these discussions with? The who? Security officer. I thought he was the guy to handle the guys at the front gate, just opens up the gates and everything. Who does he answer to?
CIO.
The who?
CIO.
CIO? Maybe he answers to somebody else. Maybe CEO. Yeah. That's how important this is. It's not the security guy you're talking about with the badge and the gun, Barney Fife kind of thing. We're talking about this is that important that they've got senior leadership that drives this. They have the power to say yes or no. And again, I think the conversations, if you have any conversations with anybody in their organization, you have to talk about how they're doing policy enforcement, how BYOD has changed their life, not for the better. How security of applications are moving into the cloud. Are they moving into the cloud? How are you going to do that? I mean, it might be something that actually drives so much more of your business. This could actually drive cloud business tremendously. This could drive cloud business tremendously. I've seen customers say this was a great solution for me, because I can't keep up. I can't keep up. As much as we want to hire these great, smart guys and everything.
One thing about it though is that there are big players like IBM, HP, that have massive security practices.
Oh, absolutely,
Very,
absolutely.
very strong in the spot. And to compete with them would be incredibly difficult.
Absolutely. But again, just because we don't compete don't mean we don't get to step on the field. Exactly. But they do. And you know what? They were smart because they got there early, didn't they? They got there early and they simplified it. And here's one of the things, and I'm not going to belabor the point too much. Going back to what I said about Cisco complicating things. If you sat and listened to their presentations, I sit and listen to EMC do presentations sometimes. And I know that stuff they do on the back end and everything's got a lot of stuff going on. It's way over my head. But when they look at the customer and they talk to a customer, it sounds so simple. It's like, we know your business, here's what we're doing, here's how it's going to work. It's going to go here, here, and here. We're going to do this. We feel confident that this is going to address every one of your business needs. There's going to be some benefits you don't even realize yet. What does Cisco do? Well, so, this is hard to do. And it's going to take, when it goes from here, now you see these, let me draw these products out. We make everything sound so complicated. This is complicated. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, just true authentication, boy, takes about 19 steps in authentication to authenticate a device and everything, back and forth. Cisco would go in and try to tell you all those 19 steps. I don't care about that. How are you going to keep my network safe? How are you going to keep my business continuing? So it's a big thing.